Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of Dialing In and another one in our Line 6 Helix Firmware 3.1 series of dialing ins, which we're examining some of the new features in the Firmware 3.1 update. And today I wanted to take a look at another one I've been getting a lot of requests for, and that is the new Ratatouille Distortion pedal, which is a model of the 1984 Proco Rat distortion pedal. Okay, so we had a Vermin distortion pedal in the Helix before, which was supposed to be this model, from what I understand, but they found out after they modeled it that the pedal actually wasn't functioning properly, so there was some complaints and some uproar, I guess, I don't know, that model wasn't right. We still have that because I'm sure a lot of people built presets around and we're like, okay, everything's fine. But now they've updated the Rat pedal and we now have it. Now you might say, dialing in the Rat pedal? I mean, why? There's basically, two parameters on it. But there's some actual interesting behavior with these parameters. So we're gonna take a look at today. I'm gonna throw this up on CustomTone, this little preset I come up with. It's not gonna be anything really special. Just a quick look at the new Ratatouille model, and kind of pairing it up with the right amp is important too. So let's go over to HX Edit. So I tried playing around with this with, a couple different amp models, and some of them it worked really nicely with, others I was kind of not so impressed with, but I finally settled on the Placator Clean model and using the Ratatouille distortion kind of as the main distortion, right? Not using any amp distortion with it. I'm sure you could use it also with an already distorted amp with a lower setting, but I kind of did that a little bit and I wasn't blown away by it for a simple reason that we're going to talk about when we talk about the overall gain control on the Ratatouille. But for now, I have my little preset here, my template preset with the retro reel at the end, Lally Studio Comp close to the end, just an EQ with high and low cuts, really nothing special. A little bit of dynamic hall reverb, a little bit of transistor tape delay, and my normal low and high shelf with the low frequency and high frequency settings at 650 Hertz. All the frequencies below that, minus 2 dB, all the frequencies above that, plus 2 dB. Here are the settings I use in the Placator Clean. I changed it to a 412 Greenback 25 with a 160 ribbon mic, 3.5 inches back, and I removed the low and high cuts since I have those over here on my EQ block. So I have drive set at 4.5, bass at 5, treble at 7, presence at 5.9, master at 10, channel volume at 10, bright on 2, and I didn't touch the deeper functions. So on my bridge humbucker, that sounds like this. So that's what it sounds like with various combinations of single coil, bridge, neck, and all the other combinations. All right, so I was really liking that tone once I added the Rat distortion pedal in. Now, like I said, we have gain, we have filter, we have level. The level is just how much output level is coming out of it. So, I mean, that will affect the tone because it's going to hit the amp with more output or with less output, which could end up having the amp break up in a different way. So but that's the default setting is at 7. What the filter basically is a high cut. So if we have it down here, we're not cutting the highs, if any at all, or the least amount of cut. And as we move it up, it's going to cut the highs down more. So we'll just start it at 5. But now, if we put the gain to 0, let's just check out the gain range on this. So let's do this. Let's bump that. At a filter of 0, it's going to really thin the sound out. So what happens as we kind of bring a little more gain in? Let's move up to maybe 3. So we can really see this starts to change pretty fast and get a lot of cutting distortion. I'm going to bring this level back just a hair still. There's our tone without it. Now what I find really interesting about the gain is that as we crank it up, it really adds some weight to the sound and some body. The bottom end gets nice and full. I'm not totally crazy about this down with lower gain settings. Now obviously we're going to talk about the filter control in a second, but you hear the thinness to the notes. As we crank that gain up, so I really find at lower gain settings, this kind of thins out a bit. And that's what when I found using it with a low gain setting and using the filter control just to change the tone with kind of a high gain amp, I found I didn't really like it because it tended to kind of thin the tone out in a way I didn't like. We lost that kind of weight to the bottom end. So I would find I would probably be running this kind of closer to the top. Where you kind of retain some of that weight. Now obviously we haven't brought the filter in yet, so we're still getting a really kind of high-endy, top-endy tone, right? That may be just what somebody wants, right? Well, let's take the delay off. Some nice stuff there. Now, what about this filter? Let's go from that extreme all the way up to 10. You're gonna hear a huge difference. We also lose some of the output, so I'm gonna crank the level up a bit. Does that ever take on a different life now? Like that with, it's kind of extreme, but that with some delay. Probably too smooth, but it really shows how flexible this pedal actually really is. Now, if we bring that gain down, It's better with the higher filter settings, I find. And we'll explore some in between in a moment, but there's still a little bit of that lost weight to the bottom, but it is more usable on the lower gain settings with the higher filter settings. Now the filter is very touchy. Let's bring this back to 10 for a second. So everything on 10 obviously too smooth and not really usable in a mix. Let's just bring that back to 9. So now we're getting into kind of a more happy medium setting where, you know, we're not getting those really thinner cutting tones, something kind of more balancing around here. But again, at the lower gain settings, it kind of starts thinning out with those lower filter settings. So for me, if I was going to use this with the lower gain settings, I would tend to probably keep this filter a little bit higher. Whereas if we lower that filter and we lose some of that bottom end weight. So really interesting, but I mean, settings up here at, you know, maybe 8 or 9 with, I don't know, maybe like even a 7 on the filter gives some nice smooth tone. Fun stuff. That has a nice smooth tone to it. But you know, for something just kind of an in-between usable tone, I would probably bring this maybe down in the 6 range, maybe the gain around 8. In this particular case with these settings. I'm kind of liking it. So there are some really great tones in here, and the gain and filter are kind of like interactive in a really cool way. You know, low gain settings with a low filter setting, kind of thin and weak, but as you bring that filter up, it kind of adds some fullness to it. I probably prefer the higher gain settings on it regardless, with the filter up probably past 5, and it kind of smooths it out. But it's going to be really up to us to decide how we want to dial that in. But for now, I'll just keep this tone as is. hope you guys like it. You know, it's not the perfect tone, but I just wanted to kind of give you a rundown of how these controls kind of interact and what they do, and a bit of the sound of the new Ratatouille distortion. So I hope you guys enjoyed that. Go grab this on CustomTone, mess around with it. It's not really dialed into perfection, but more just a starting point for you guys to mess with, and hopefully you like it. Please like the video, share it with anybody who you think would get use out of it or enjoy watching it, and also subscribe to the channel and hit the little bell notification to get notified when I put new content out. I'll have more coming real soon. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. Ciao for now.